Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. Welcome back, friends and family. Do I have a video for you today? How many of you have heard the name Nick Shirley? All of you. How many of you know that Nick Shirley comes from Utah and he is Mormon? Most of you know that. Are you aware that Nick Shirley and Tyler Robinson are cousins? Nick Shirley and Tyler Robinson, the young man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, they are cousins. Their mothers are half sisters. Now, I'm going to show you the pros and cons of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you what Nick Shirley said, how he tried to say that this was a false claim. But I just want to point out a few things to you guys. Nick Shirley went to Israel, to the Gaza border. Nick Shirley just came back from Cuba after claiming he was being held captive inside of a hotel that American citizens are federally not allowed to be. It's a federal law. You are not allowed to be in that hotel. And I'm going to debunk his claims that he was being held captive against his will. 3 days after that stunt in Cuba, Trump rolled out a whole bunch more sanctions against Cuba. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that Trump is moving into this technocratic takeover of other countries. Part of that is Greenland, Canada, Venezuela, Cuba. Yeah, the technocracy, the map of Rome. If you've seen that, that's what Trump is trying to do. When Nick went to Ukraine, there was a Ukraine social media influencer that called him out for his lies about what he said in the Ukraine. I have all of that footage for you guys. JD Vance began to retweet Nick Shirley right after the Charlie Kirk assassination. Who was the very last interview Charlie Kirk ever did 30 minutes before he took the stage at UVU? It was Nick Shirley. It was Nick Shirley. And Nick Shirley was supposed to be there that day, but instead he went to New York, but he never explained why he went to New York. He said he had a meeting. Elon Musk has retweeted Nick Shirley. JD Vance has retweeted Nick Shirley. Alex Jones just had Nick Shirley on his show the other day. Nick Shirley, right now, today, July 14th, 2026, is in front of a congressional panel discussing fraud with James O'Keefe. He has been awarded like podcaster of the year awards. He was a guest of honor at CPAC. He's been on the Sean Ryan show. But there's something here everyone else is missing. Nick Shirley is a Mormon. There have been two presidential runs by Mormons to take the White House. The first one was Joseph Smith. The second was Mitt Romney. I said once on one of my podcasts, and I truly mean this, that Charlie Kirk had to have been assassinated in Utah. Utah is legitimately the only state everybody is controlled, from their Supreme Court down to their sheriffs. Every single position is controlled by a Mormon. The Mormon church, the Church of Latter-day Saints, is a cult. When they went originally, when they went over and took that part, that land, Utah, parts of Idaho, Arizona, to create the beehive think mind control, think MK Ultra. They believed they were the chosen and that America was Zion. Folks, this is very deep. This is like CIA mind control. I honestly believe they are prepping Nick Shirley for some form of Utah congressional seat. I'm telling you, either a state representative or even in the federal government. And the long term game is going to be to put him in the White House. Everybody agrees that Charlie Kirk would have run for the presidency, probably in 2028. Right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I actually did a video because I still supported Nick Shirley at that point. I still supported Israel. I still thought Trump was actually trying to save America. How blind was I? That said, oh my gosh, look, Nick Shirley, they threatened to Charlie Kirk him. Oh my gosh. And now I realize that Nick Shirley is being backed by the Mormon church and somebody very powerful is puppeting that child. It's puppeting that child. And I call him a child because let's be very honest, and people can get mad. I don't care. I have a master's degree in special education. Nick Shirley is learning disabled. He is what we would technically call slow. Now he's teaching himself, yippee, good for Nick. But his cadence is very slow. His vocabulary is very small. And something's not quite right with the shape of his face. His jaw is very weak. This part of his head is very large. And usually when you start getting learning disabilities, you start getting physical symptoms along with it. All that aside, he calls his mother a honey badger. Now, we all heard the stories coming out of Utah recently and the Mormon church. We all know that Epstein was tied to the Mormon church. A lot of money there, folks. The Mormon church has more money in America than the Roman Catholic Church. I would say the Mormon church has more money than the federal government right now. And now there's this little Mormon boy popping up in the most unlikely of places with his mom. Okay. I call BS. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just think he's such a sweet boy, which is exactly why they chose him. Because when you listen to him, it's easy. He's not talking about anything that you really have to mentally press in. You don't have to spiritually press in to listen to Nick Shirley. It's legitimately like listening to a young adult talk about nonsense. It's easy to listen to. So I'm fixing to uncover who Nick Shirley is. I'm asking the question, did Nick Shirley know that Tyler Robinson was going to be a patsy that day? Is Tyler Robinson being a patsy? Is Nick's reward becoming famous? Because you know how these people work. Something has to be sacrificed. Usually a family member. Listen to the people in the music industry. They'll tell you, my mom died and then I became famous. They're going to find Tyler Robinson guilty because it's Utah. He's going to get the firing squad if they don't take him out before the trial even really begins. I find it funny that Nick Shirley is exposing fraud, but when he was asked, why haven't you questioned Trump? Because you've been in front of him multiple times, Nick. Why have you not questioned Donald Trump on all the people that he has forgiven for fraud and then forgave their restitution with the presidential pardon? It's billions of dollars that he has forgiven. Why haven't you asked him about that? He just stares blankly. And when he can't answer a question, his mother runs up and tries to protect him. Now, my name is Samantha Starkey. I wrote a book, Growing Under a Poison Sky. No, you don't have to grow food to want this book. It's going to explain to you in layman's terms what's happening above you, why it's happening, and then how can you fix it. I believe in solutions, friends. Let's get into this. Look, I'm going to promote myself. The YouTube puts commercials. Nothing Samantha can do about that, folks. I have to make a living, okay? But I'm not promoting any subpar Mormon crap on my channel like Melaleuca or Riverbend Beef. I'm not doing that. If you'd like to row in my boat so I don't have to have sponsors, look at the top of comments. If you don't, fine. Then just watch the video, like, comment, share. Hold on, something's wrong. There we go. Share it, hype it if you can. Leave a comment that helps push it. So this is when Nick Shirley really people began to notice who he is. Listen to this.
My name's Nick. I do like YouTube videos, like vlogs, all sort of stuff.
This was in 2020. Look at it. May 25th, 2020, during COVID.
You might not know who Nick Shirley is yet, but one day you will.
Predictive programming. You might not know who Nick Shirley is yet, but one day you will.
I started as a sophomore, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this by storm.
Ever since he was a sophomore at Farmington High, he's made one video or vlog per week. His very first one was running a marathon with no training.
People think that you train 5 months for this. Nope. You just gotta be active.
Now, Nick Shirley originally started vlogging and YouTube trying to be like Mr. Beast, and it failed miserably. After like 2 years, he only had 7,000 followers. It simply was not working. So he changed gears.
And hit him with the saw.
Since then, he's done a lot. Like taking his mom to prom during quarantine and doing a special feature on his grandma. She's 83 and can still do the splits.
Grandma!
I just came to watch you play some football.
This is basketball, Grandma.
Nick even snuck into the wedding of YouTube star Jake Paul.
Congrats, Jake. Congrats, Jake.
That stunt netted him thousands of followers.
Oh, that was like the greatest feeling ever, like getting that type of content. I just knew it was gonna be successful.
Nick shoots all the video himself. He also spends hours and hours editing. So far, he's up to 80 vlogs and 7,000 followers on his YouTube channel. His mom couldn't be more proud, but occasionally there's content she doesn't approve of.
Favorite one of all time, though, is when I flew to New York without telling my parents when I was 16.
People wonder, are you crazy? But he just does what he does, and that's what makes him Nick.
But despite all Nick's crazy antics, he also uses his vlogs for good.
No, you can have it.
Like the time he raised money to give 2 of his teachers a big bonus. Nick isn't just a kid who makes videos. He's also a football player, a track star, a great student who even got an academic scholarship, and most importantly, a hard worker. And while you might not know who Nick Shirley is now, one day you will.
He's got a bright future. Look out for Nick Shirley. This isn't the end.
In Farmington, Tanya Dean, KSL 5 News.
This my mom.
So his mom and dad were involved in a fraud case. They had a company. I was doing research on it last night before I went to bed. They had a company, and let me look it up real quick for you guys. The Utah Bankruptcy and Maton LLC, Paul and Brooke Shirley. Years before any viral videos, certain members of the Shirley family, specifically Paul and Brooke Shirley, were involved in a complex civil legal battle in Utah within a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. There was a dispute over fraudulent transfers. Corporate assets were allegedly moved out of a failing company, Thrive National Corp, to entities like Mayton LLC and the Shirleys to prevent creditors from reclaiming their money. After years of litigation, the case was settled and dismissed in 2021 when a private agreement was reached. All right. And that was 2020. You need to listen to this very carefully. This is like the night Charlie Kirk was shot or the day after. This is Utah's governor. Listen to the number that he says.
For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country.
Did you listen to this? Okay, so imagine that you're this man. You know that this whole assassination is fixing to be put on somebody. He prayed for 33 hours. That's very, very specific, isn't it? 33 hours. 33 people have now caught C-19. 33 people hospitalized. 33 days on the Hanta cruise. I'm just saying. If you understand Masonic theater, you understand this. He just said, I prayed 33 hours, it would not be one of us. But they still did. I mean, he showed the options. They could have said somebody flew in from another country. They could have blamed it on someone out of state. But no, they chose a Mormon, and he's crying on TV.
Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for. For 33 hours, I was
praying. Now, I found this video, and this really freaked me out. This is right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. This gentleman was in Utah. Watch how he reacted. I mean, I still have my live video feeds up. I cried a little bit. I sure didn't act like this. I think this might, I don't know what this is. Just watching.
This is such bullshit. I've never been so pissed in my whole life. And this murder Charlie Kirk right here in Utah. I'm so freaking pissed right now. This is bullshit. I just saw blood squirting out of his neck. I love that guy. He would have been our next president. I am so.
He would have been our next president. There it is, friends. And he's right. He's right. Now, you need to listen to this very carefully about why it's so important that you guys understand why this video has to be a little longer than people like it. We've got to show the evidence to those who don't yet understand. What's going on? Okay, so we'll have to skip that one. So here's the thing, friends. We know that the Mormon church has always wanted to take America over and create a theocracy. I have heard that in Salt Lake, Utah, at the main Mormon temple, the very top, there's a replica of the White House. Now, of the Oval Office. They say it's just so they can pray for the president, but I think that they use it like MK Ultra. I think that they are doing witchcraft there, and I think that they're brainwashing these young people to try to get someone in the Oval Office. Charlie Kirk, TPUSA. There, if you've watched Wolves of Finance, even Candace Owens, a lot of people talked about the money fraud, right? How the money in TPUSA, Charlie Kirk wanted like a Doge style audit, right? Why has Nick Shirley not touched that? I mean, right? He's out here finding fraud in America, but he won't investigate Trump. He doesn't go to Republican states, and he's not looked into Charlie Kirk in TPUSA. and he's cousins with Tyler Robinson. I'm just saying, folks, it don't line up. Trump has now pardoned over 1,800 criminals. In the process, he has allowed these individuals to retain over $2 billion in stolen taxpayer funds. Any thoughts, Nick Shirley? A lot of people are asking him to investigate these things to show that he's not just a MAGA lackey, and he won't. He really will not. He will not touch these things. I don't know why this isn't working.
Oh my God, there's massive fraud in Minnesota. We were all gonna die for it if it wasn't uncovered by some racist little mediocre subpar white kid who dates his mom, running around to daycare centers and trying to film children without consent. I cannot, with you freshly waxed bowling alley smooth level brain morons anymore. If you call Nick Shirley a journalist, I immediately question how you are legally allowed to live on your own without a babysitter. Nick Shirley's not a journalist. Nick Shirley is a weird little Mormon boy from Utah who's never taken a journalism class in his life. He never even went to college. The kid can barely read, let alone uncover massive amounts of fraud. And when I say he's a weird little kid who dates his mom, that's not a joke. His high school prom was canceled because of COVID, and so he did a prom at home with his mom. And we know about this because he made videos about it, and then a local news station wrote a story about it. And it's not just that. His mom, Brooke Shirley, who goes by Brooker T. Jones online, and the Honey Badger, which her son affectionately calls her, which is also weird, runs around all over the country doing this racist pretend journalism with him. It's a weird relationship, a real Oedipal arrangement, if you will. This breaking news that you morons keep saying, oh, why isn't all the mainstream media reporting on it, is because it's a 2-year-old story that they did report on, 2 years ago when it was breaking news, and Nick Shirley just plagiarized and then made up a bunch of wild shit about it. The investigation already uncovered all of this stuff. It's ongoing. Multiple people have already been charged. Some of them are in prison. There's zero connection to terrorism. It's not a Somali fraud ring because the ringleader, Amy Brock, was a white Christian woman. Somali people are not inherently violent. In fact, they tend to be super nice and loving people, which is part of the reason why Minnesota's violent crime rate is substantially lower than the national average. Many of the daycare centers, he says, are committing fraud and still receiving funds, have already been shut down, and many of the people have been held accountable, and that's all public information. And part of the reason this happened at all was because Minnesota Republicans voted against additional fraud protection. Oh, and it's not actually a Minnesota problem, just Minnesota took it seriously, found it earlier than other places, and started prosecuting those people sooner, so we knew about it sooner. Something they did under the leadership of Tim Walz, the person they're trying to blame for all of this somehow, because it's Somali people's fault, but it's also Tim Walz's fault. But Tim Walz isn't the governor of those liberal blue states like Texas and Florida and Arizona and Alabama and Ohio, where similar fraud schemes from the same taxpayer-funded programs are currently being uncovered. Where if Nicky Poo really wanted to be doing breaking news journalism, he'd be there knocking.
Now, see, I don't like Tim Walz. I have my own reasons for that. Tim Walz disgusts me. But let me make this point. That guy is not wrong, you guys. The Minnesota Somali case, and I'm going to show you proof of everything I'm fixing to say. A Republican from Minnesota gave Nick Shirley that story and said, here, go investigate it. Where did that Republican official get that information? From the Israeli CIA/Mossad. They found it. You know how they found it? Because the Palestinians that won't get in line in Gaza that are still alive, the refugees, have to be moved. They can't house them all in Gaza and still turn Gaza into their beachfront resort city. So a lot of them are going to get moved. You know where they want to move them? To Somaliland. Have you ever heard of Somaliland? Probably not. Somaliland is part of Somalia that broke off. And the money that was being funneled by the Somalia, Minnesota fraud was going to Somaliland. And that's how the Israelis found it. They notified Trump. He turned around and told the Minnesota Republican guy, and he went under, instead of bringing it out himself as a representative, an elected official, he gave it to a 20-something-year-old named Nick Shirley to run with. Sorry. not believing it. This is Nick Shirley right now in front of a congressional seat. Listen to what they say.
Of that independent journalism sitting in front of us. The fact that he exposed in all its gory detail how grotesque and how blatant this fraud is, how rampant it is. So, Mr. Hitler Gaudet, listen, I agree with most of your prescriptions here. Chairman of the committee, we had you testify. I've been trying to support of Inspector Generals. Now we've had to, got a couple of Inspector Generals resigning ahead of the posse because they're certainly not perfect as well. The problem I have with all the prescriptions is it hasn't worked. The lowest estimate I hear fraud in the federal government is $250 billion a year. I think you said 230. We had in a subcommittee hearing LexisNexis saying it's $1 trillion. It wasn't really until this administration with DOGE, which is, that effort's also been denigrated here, that we started going in there and actually doing something about it. Now you have Dr. Oz going in, again, I think partly because of Nick Shirley's revelation that a third of the hospice centers in America were in Los Angeles County. So the way we prevented that fraud is we stopped funding 400 of them and not one of those hospice centers complained. So it's the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Shirley, again, I commend you on your phenomenal journalism. Quite honestly, when I saw that happening, I go, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't my staff do those videos? Journalism is crucial to this. You're a partner in what we need to do. And it's only because of those videos that expose that we have any chance of trying to rein in this beast. But you mentioned the Stop Nick Shirley Act. What is that? Can you describe that in greater?
Seriously, did a sitting senator in the federal government just ask a 25-year-old to explain to him what he obviously already knows? Do you not see the very poor B-acting theater happening on this panel? It's embarrassing.
Things as they really are. America was built and created by strong men.
I had to speed it up to 1.5 because usually Nick talks about this fast. And that would have made this clip 3.5 minutes.
A woman who loved America never would have thought to rob, steal, or cheat from its very own citizens. Unfortunately, today, America's good faith has been abused by others, often foreigners who seek to harm, rob, and cheat America. Through my efforts, I've exposed billions of dollars of fraud and helped save America hundreds of billions for years to come. When we talk about fraud, we are talking about money that is being stolen from hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. This issue has nothing to do with political parties. No dollar says Republican or Democrat on it.
He's wrong. Did you hear what he just said? No money says Republican or Democrat on it. Did you guys not see what Trump just did with the gold coin? Holy smokes. We're fixing to get there. Don't go anywhere. So let me show you what I'm talking about. It says, but today on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, this was December 31st of 2025, Nick Shirley revealed he was the last person interviewed by Charlie Kirk for his podcast 1 hour before the UVU event, in his words. He then revealed that he is from Utah and was planning to go to UVU event, but then decided at the last moment to go to New York for some reason, in his words. He did not explain why. He's currently blowing up in a very inorganic way in online and podcast universes at the very Conservative Inc. The very time Conservative Inc. needs someone to help them stop bleeding Gen Z support. It says that Elon Musk, 48 of 49 last post or repost on X have been about the Somalia fraud issue Nick Shirley is working on. Even if not hired by TPUSA, I think it is evident that people like Musk will want Shirley to be a replacement for Kirk. This is critical because he possesses two qualities not obviously tainted by TPUSA affiliations on the one hand and not an avowed white nationalist on the other. It says PBD asked him point blank what he thinks happened to Kirk at UVU. Without hesitation, Nick Shirley said Tyler Robinson did it. with perhaps even more certainty in his voice than the suspicious certainty we've been hearing from Nick Fuentes and Tim Pool. He said right away how obvious it was to him that Tyler Robinson did it. Shirley's only evidence as a Mormon member, LDS himself, he says that lapsed or ex-LDS like Tyler Robinson are the most militant and violent leftists. Excuse me? This is from the guy with receipts on Somalia fraud issue. He is satisfied that Tyler acted alone and killed Kirk only based on the fact that he was an ex-Mormon. That's odd. I think he's being boosted to distract from Charlie Kirk and Jeffrey Epstein. We can walk and chew gum at the same time and investigate all three. However, anyone saying that stop talking about Kirk or Epstein conspiracies is immediately suspicious. I escaped communist Cuba in 24 hours, inside Cuba in 2026. He is claimed to have been held hostage by the Cuban government, held interviews that demonize the Cuban government, and is blaming the embargo on Cuba, amongst other things. This is likely a form of justification and preparation for whatever the United States is planning to do to Cuba. The current administration has consistently made the remarks about liberating Cuba, a country which has stood against him at all odds. Viva Cuba. Nick Shirley, 30 voters registered at a California UPS store. Paul Mitchell, people live above it. Look up, bro. So this kid walks up to a UPS store. I just watched the video and I also have it for you guys to see. And he's like, 30 registered voters, all registered at the same UPS store. Right above the UPS store are these apartments in the picture. You see the apartments? People actually live there. They live there. That's how Nick Shirley gets lazy people to believe him when he says he's investigating. Nick Shirley and Tyler Robinson are cousins. I mean, look at the faces, folks. Look at the weird shaped heads, the weak jaws. I mean, he's jutting his out like this, but I can see it. J.D. Vance, the Trump administration, and Trump's influencers started hyping Nick Shirley shortly after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Truth. And then, of course, Nick posted this, "Rip Charlie Kirk." Yes, there was a fraud-related case involving Nick Shirley's parents, but it's separate, of course, you know. It was solved in March 2021 over fraudulent transfers. I'm showing you all this in case Nick Shirley decides he wants to try to, come after me. All right, so here's Trump's money. Scott Bessent, who also, I'm going to show you a video of him praising Nick Shirley, is saying that they're going to start striking this $1 gold coin to honor the enduring legacy and liberty of President Trump. He's going to be on the 250th commemorative coin. His name is now on all money. So when Nick said, well, it's not a Republican or a Democrat on money, well, it is, Nick. Do you guys remember when Bibi Netanyahu said he's reading a book about destroying Rome and then turned around and called Christians in America Rome? And now we have a president that thinks he's flipping Caesar, dude. And if you want to know why, recently I've been talking about mainly Republicans and not Democrats because I have 2 years of videos on what crap Democrats do and who they are. And I was just like Nick Shirley. I never looked the gift horse in the mouth. No more. Blinders are off. They're all crap. They're all fraudulent.
I was there.
Wait, what? You were there? Okay, what happened on January 6th? I was there too. I was also there. I was on the steps of Capitol Hill. What happened on January 6th?
January 6th?
What happened? Be careful because I was there.
I was there too.
Okay, I was on the steps. Be careful. What happened on January 6th? What happened? What happened?
Donald Trump.
What happened?
I'm talking.
Okay, yes.
There was an insurrection there.
There was an insurrection. By who? By who?
By the same people that were at the
No. By who? No. By who? Oh yeah. Okay, so then great. So it's all FBI, Antifa and the FBI. But then who's in jail? No. But the people in jail, are those Antifa and FBI? No. Trump calls them political prisoners. So the people. But the ones that got caught are not Antifa and FBI. But everyone else was Antifa and FBI, but the ones that went to jail are all Antifa, but they're not Antifa and FBI.
Hey, dude, we're on the same team.
Yeah, I do the same thing you do, so trust me, I can see right through it. Okay, so according to them, I was at Capitol Hill, you were at Capitol Hill on January 6th. I saw an insurrection, you saw, it was just Antifa and FBI, but the people that are in jail were not Antifa or FBI, correct? So the people in jail, are they Antifa or FBI?
What happened was not right. It was not right. But
Thank
also
you.
what is going on
No, we're not pivoting. We're not pivoting. Say that the people that are from Antifa. No.
Also not well.
Wait, what? Like Palestine?
Yeah, and then
Palestine?
Yeah, that's horrible what's going on in Palestine.
Okay, thank you. So
Nobody should there should no innocent people should ever die.
okay, thank you. I thank you. I agree, 100%.
No innocent people should ever die.
Do you agree with Trump saying that he wants to mow down student encampments? What?
no. And
Thank
I don't
you.
believe he's saying that.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't
I
at.
don't
Okay, so then I
believe
wasn't
he
at
does
the.
no.
I've been to.
And I don't believe he's saying that, but he did say it. The Shirley family and financial fraud untangling the web. I just wanted to show you guys where I got my information. I'll link that. It's also on my X account, my Twitter account, but I'll also put it in description. This is Nick and Brooke Shirley, a deep dive into the people claiming the daycare fraud. In 2018, Brooke and her husband were sued for fraud involving improper transfers. Once again, every accusation is a confession. Another interesting side note is Nick Shirley invited his mother, Brooke, to his home prom during the pandemic. Nick Shirley tells Donald Trump what he's seen at protests. Same faces in different states, same signs in different states. This is when Nick Shirley sat in front of Trump the first time. Golly, that was back in what was this, 2025, the beginning of it?
To show people about the protest Antifa here in the United States, and there's nothing organic about what they are doing here in the United States. I've watched people be bussed in from states. I've watched the same lady at a protest in Atlanta be bussed to protest in DC and then in New York City.
Yeah, it's called Crowds on Demand. I covered that, but they're not going to say that. I mean, guys, Republicans and Democrats both use central casting. I showed y'all with the Mitch McConnell and the cheerleader, the flu shot cheerleader. You remember? Then look at this. This was July 11th, this young man. Oh, this young man. He continues to expose fraud, regardless of Democrats trying to stop him or people trying to intimidate him. He exposed millions in fraud in New York. Liberals are not happy. Protect Nick Shirley at all costs. Getting his award. Yeah, this is all natural, folks. To go from running down the road in a black hoodie and Mr. Beast type videos to this in 5 years it's totally natural. Actually, it was in 2 years. I watched him when he still only had about 20,000 people on his YouTube channel. What the heck? Told you guys, they have bought social media influencers too. James O'Keefe, the same man that I just showed you in a video with Nick Shirley sitting in front of a Senate committee today, right now, says that O'Keefe wants him paid and others. Biden gave billions to communist propaganda. Column MSM, we should be able to fund our investigative reporters. Contact the president. Yeah, they're getting. And oh yeah, here's Scott Bessent
had very good transparency, and that's why that young man Nick Shirley was able to go to all these
see the
scams because
Yeah, the same one that just came out with the gold, Donald Trump. It matters who retweets you. Eric Daltrey, this guy loves to retweet the MAGA nonsense. This guy's good. You got to hear this.
That was just something that people made up on Twitter, except for we didn't actually stay at the wrong hotel. That was just something that people made up on Twitter, except for an American citizen who recently did violate OFAC and stayed at a hotel that America does not allow American citizens to stay in. It wasn't me, though. It was Nick Shirley. Literally, the hotel that Nick Shirley was in was actually on the state sponsor of terrorism list. Okay? We obviously didn't stay at a hotel we obviously didn't stay at a fucking hotel that the American government has made illegal to stay in. Nick Shirley, on the other hand, whether because he's a fucking idiot or because, it doesn't really matter
He's CIA.
what he does because he's basically an agent for the state, did stay in a hotel that was illegal for him to stay in. I personally think it's idiotic. You should be able to stay in whatever fucking hotel you want to, by the way. I think it's a totally ridiculous restriction imposed upon Americans and Americans only, mind you. Right? It's hilarious that the mouth-breathing rightoid accidentally violated U.S. Treasury rules, yet they're targeting the scary Marxists for literally following the law. Yeah. But yeah, if this is the investigation, that's hilarious. This is just like headline chasing. The federal government got clickbaited by Twitter.
Yeah. According to public statements, it's believed the delegation members stayed at a hotel the U.S. State Department has put on a Cuba restricted list. Huh. Why? Because it's full of fraud? And here's Nick Shirley saying they came after me when he was on the Sean Ryan show.
They came after me. They came after my family. They doxed my entire family.
How did they come after you? Be specific.
Well, they tried to come after me. They tried to debunk all my whole entire story. They then...
Who's they?
All the news.
Would you just get more
CNN,
specific? CNN, who within CNN?
CBS.
Who's the reporter?
I don't even know her name because she's irrelevant. Nobody knows who she is. They came after me. They came after my family. They doxed.
Let me tell y'all something. I've had people come after me. They're not irrelevant. Every person that has made a threat against me, whether you are sending me something in the mail or you are leaving me a message of you deep breathing with somebody playing the bagpipes in the background, all of that is copied, labeled, and hand delivered to my sheriff, even if you give me a fake name. Because it's not irrelevant. I'm not saying people aren't threatening him, but you're claiming that a reporter from CNN doxed you, but you don't know who she is because she's irrelevant. And people fell for that. Obviously, Sean Ryan fell for that. All these big podcasters are controlled. That's why they have sponsors. That's why you guys should row in my boat. Send $1, send 10. Help me continue to do this work because I'm one of the few people that just doesn't care anymore. I'm ousting everybody. Nick Shirley was Charlie Kirk's final interview guest prior to the shooting. And when you combine the removal of the SD card with minutes missing and the fact that the actual spot where Charlie Kirk was killed was paved over with cement just days later without the lead detective's permission, which just came out in the trial, along with no shell casings on the roof, mystery rooftop footage of an unvetted suspect, multiple unexplained guns found at the scene, a bizarre wardrobe change and gate change, internet memes inscribed on the bullet, it creates a lot of questions. I mean, can you not tell both these boys are Mormon? Look at the shape of their heads. Look at their chins. That's a bad picture because, like I said, he's jutting his chin out. I'm telling you right now. Look at the oversized, right? There it is. Did Nick Shirley have something to do with the Charlie Kirk assassination? Did he know something? I don't think he's that smart. I don't think they would necessarily tell him, but I think something. And this is awesome. Listen to this.
Minnesota fraud story. Trump, Cuba, and Scott Bessent have. What do Nick Shirley, the American YouTuber who exposed the Minnesota fraud story, Trump, Cuba, and Scott Bessent have in common? Let's talk about it. I'm Leah. I spent my career in intelligence, expose fraud, corruption, and nonprofit politicians, everything. If you haven't already, go subscribe to my Substack. It is at the link in my bio. I have all of my deep dive investigations, sources, proof, everything. And it's also where I host my podcast. Thank you all so much for your support. Let's get into it. May 1st, Nick Shirley flies his happy ass down to Cuba with a private security team, and I see him pop up on my X feed, sitting on the edge of a bed, very distraught. And he's like, I was almost kidnapped. I was almost taken hostage. They took all my stuff. I can't believe this. It's so awful here. Blah, blah, blah. Initially, it struck me as very strange, just his delivery, his behavior. And so I was like, why is he, what? Red flags. Red flags went off, but I ignored it. Well, same day, Trump signs an executive order stating that he's going to put Iran-style sanctions on Cuba. Trump has also been talking about a regime change this entire time. So I was like, okay, this isn't making sense. I'm going to look more into this. To give you a little bit of background, Cuba is currently experiencing its worst crises in history since the Soviet Union collapse. Havana is having 15-hour-a-day blackouts. Their grid has gone completely down twice this year. Their economy is on track to constrict at least 7%, which is catastrophic. Their currency has plummeted 26%. The UN is calling it a humanitarian crisis, and Trump has been calling for a regime change in Cuba ever since we went in and got Maduro. Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, well, if you haven't seen my deep dive on him, it's worth checking out. He worked for Soros. I think that's all I need to say, but he facilitated the crash of the pound. He crashed the Japanese yen in 2013. He admitted to being the one to cause the crash of the Iranian rial right before all of this went down, which is why they were protesting. Remember, their economy was so bad. And he's now effectively crashing the Cuban currency. Okay, so he's crashing the currency. Trump signs this executive order. Effectively, they're starving the Cuban people. That's what's happening. We are cutting off everything to them, all because he wants a regime change. And we always say, hey, it's for the people, but look at what's happening in Iran. It's never for the people. It's never for the people. Anytime I hear regime change and us, I get concerned because we aren't good at it. We have very bad pickers. So with all of that happening, Nick Shirley is sitting here pushing a political agenda, it seemed like to me. And I was like, how did he get here? I never really paid attention to the kid. I saw that he broke the Minnesota fraud story, and that was the last I had really seen of him. I did a little digging. What it looks like to me is that he's on the payroll to push these agendas. And that's what I'm not okay with. Because if you have to say that you're going to advertise for a product, well, you sure as hell should say that you're advertising for a political view. Otherwise, that's manipulation.
There you go. I totally agree. Has anybody seen any videos of Nick Shirley doing a deep dive into the Charlie Kirk assassination? Have you seen Nick Shirley doing any type of content that does not push Donald Trump Mormon-backed nonsense? Anybody? Because I'd like to see any unbiased reporting that Nick Shirley has done.
Okay, so let's talk about Nick Shirley, because this is important. Pre-2021, he was a prankster on YouTube. He would fly across the country without telling his parents. He did YouTube videos like that. Then in 2021, 2022, he went on an LDS mission trip to South America. By the way, he's from Utah and part of the Mormon Church. So he goes on this mission trip for a few years and comes back in 2024, and he's like, I'm not a prankster YouTuber anymore. I'm a political YouTuber. That struck me as interesting. Very, very interesting. Was he recruited? I don't know. Just asking questions. I'm just asking questions because that's a weird switch. Then he becomes a political YouTuber and goes on the street and starts interviewing people about Antifa. Fast forward a few months, he's got like 200,000 YouTube subscribers around there, and he's invited to a roundtable at the White House in October.
In October, with 200,000 YouTube followers, almost, not quite. We have 126 here on my main channel. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? The likelihood that the White House is going to call me to come in to do a roundtable with Donald Trump and sit beside JD Vance while doing so is extremely small. He comes back from a Mormon 2-year mission trip. The Mormon church actually developed some of the mind control techniques that the CIA used in MK Ultra.
Of 2025 to talk about Antifa with all of these other really, really big conservative creators, Fox News, things like that. Okay, interesting. And then fast forward 2 months later to December of 2025, and that's when the Minnesota fraud story breaks. He goes mega viral, and the rest is history. A little bit about the Minnesota fraud story. That actually wasn't his story to begin with. He didn't discover it. 2 Republican legislatures that worked in the Minnesota state legislature knew of this fraud happening. One of them gave it to his friend. They worked on it, and they give it to Nick Shirley, this kid in Utah. That struck me as really weird, not gonna lie. So that connection isn't just made organically. It wasn't organic. Who pushed it to him? Then within hours of him posting it, JD Vance and Elon Musk push it out. They repost, and then it just took off. That seems like coordination to me, period. That's coordination. Interestingly enough, too, his parents were involved in a lawsuit in Utah, a bankruptcy lawsuit. Allegedly, they wired over $1 million of assets to themselves for the bankruptcy. They ended up paying $20K and not admitting guilt. So that just tells you where that ended. His aunt went to prison for fraud. I find this to be very bizarre. In my opinion, what it feels like is that Nick Shirley was placed, and that now he's pushing an agenda and being paid and not telling anyone, and that really pisses me off. So anyway,
yeah, because like she said, his aunt went to prison for fraud. His parents, $1 million in assets. I mean, maybe they got off the hook. They let him off. Did you guys see this guy? Oh my gosh. I just burst out laughing when I saw this.
Talking to this guy. Why are we talking to this guy?
Do y'all remember the Ricky Schroeder? Everybody's saying this is Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons. He's at the courthouse in Utah. He's watching live on YouTube. So he wanted to go there. It's Ricky Schroeder. And now they're pushing it out. It's because we're in a friggin' simulation and they have to redo their actors.
And it's a fucking joke. It's an absolute fucking joke.
His language is horrific. And I apologize. I don't curse. But we are all adults here, and there's something he says everybody needs to hear.
There's more evidence that Mitch McConnell is still alive than that Tyler Robinson was anywhere on that UVU fucking campus. They don't have a single fucking picture of his fucking face. It's all just pictures of dudes from the back in maroon shirts and jeans walking around, sometime limping with the left leg, sometime limping with the right. Oh, they got his car? Yeah, they got a fucking Dodge Challenger. Tyler Robinson drove a V6 fucking a low grade Dodge Challenger with just single exhaust.
Yeah, it had single exhaust on Tyler Robinson's car. Folks, what I'm trying to tell you is this is all very, I don't know if they're going to let me play this because of the music, but I'm going to.
It completely has to be a coincidence. There's no way that both of these things are true. It completely has to be a coincidence, right? We'll get into who funded Twiggy's school, from the Tyler Robinson's case in just 1 minute. So I'm totally not, fact checkers, not saying that this is true. But for some reason, SuperGrok, one of the most intelligent AIs, is saying it's true. The question was, is Nick Shirley and Tyler James, are they half cousins? I want you to remember, just really quick, again, not saying it's true, I'm just saying AI said it's true. But remember this one thing, that right after that whole CK thing happened, right, the Shirley thing happened, that's when Nick Shirley started blowing up out of nowhere. So are they related? Yes, it checks out. Nick Shirley and Tyler James Robinson, the suspect, are half cousins. Shared grandfather. Here are the names. Jeffrey Jones of Cedar City, Utah. It says right here. Nick Shirley's mom, Brooke T. Jones, online as Brooker T. Jones, Brooke Shirley. Tyler Robinson's mom, Amber Johns Robinson. Brooke and Amber are half sisters, same father, different mothers, which makes their sons half first cousins. Now I'll say this just for a disclaimer. Other AIs are saying that no, this is not true. You need to look farther into it. But again, I'm not saying it is. But Super Grok even gave the names of relatives and how it all worked out. Not just that, but Mr. Bill funded Twiggy's school. You can go watch her video with her information on WFF News. So not saying any of it's true, but I'll say, why would AI say it's true and have the direct relatives' names and they all check out?
Yep. And then Nick Shirley came on and he's like, no, it's not true. It's not true. It is true.
So apparently the whole Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk thing is taking a very strange turn. I reported yesterday that Tyler Robinson was registered as an unaffiliated voter, and that is true as far as we can tell. It turns out that he was what they call a groiper, which I never really heard the term before until I had to dig into it. It's an alt-right group who likes Nick Fuentes, and apparently they don't like conservatives like Charlie Kirk because they don't think they're conservative enough. Tyler Robinson was very active on places like 4chan, and he talked a lot about how he didn't like Charlie Kirk. According to Utah officials and police interviews with his family, Tyler Robinson hated Charlie Kirk because Kirk wasn't conservative enough. And according to a journalist, they said over on Twitter, apparently the GOP is scrubbing posts they made about Democrats being responsible for this whole thing as fast as they can.
Yep. We're almost done.
And the internet's crazy, but people are like, this is going to be the next Charlie Kirk turning point. How do you feel when people kind of make those comparisons?
I think what they did was different. I'm my own person in a way, so I think people like Charlie and curved the path for what was happening, and I'm not trying to be Charlie by any means. I'm just trying to be Nick Shirley.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.
All right. This is him saying Charlie Kirk reached out to him. It doesn't. I'm looking to see if it's got the date of these texts. He posted this September 10th, 2025. Wow, can I get you on my show on Thursday? That was supposedly Charlie Kirk. Seeing your stuff on Laura right now. Thursday, I'll be filming in blank. I'm available tomorrow. Turn the music off. And then, yeah. I'm just saying, guys. September 10th, 2025.
That are also forming gangs, and they're playing by a different set of rules?
Yeah, like obviously they're from Latin America and they're from cartel.
Holy smoke. You guys, what? This is a smoking gun. The first time that Andrew Colvett ever covered for Charlie Kirk on the Charlie Kirk show while he was in Utah at UVU, look who he was interviewing. September 10th, 2025. I hope all this music doesn't make me block a lot.
Journalist uncovering fraud one daycare at a time, or a deep state propagandist that was participating in a national security.
Hold on, I want to start it.
Breaking news. Who is Nick Shirley? Really? A citizen journalist uncovering fraud one daycare at a time, or a deep state propagandist that was participating in a national security meeting earlier this year? Nick has been posting social media videos for a very long time, but his connection to the White House is deeper than you think. In 2018, Nick Shirley's family was sued for fraud, only for their case to be thrown out in 2021 and then settled later in February 2025. Certainly strange timing, but this could all just be coincidence, which brings me to my
No
next piece of
coincidence.
evidence, the Minnesota GOP admitting that they worked with Nick Shirley on his video, with Representative Harry Niska saying some information in Shirley's video came from Republican staff but did not elaborate on the specific details, which is very interesting because the Minnesota Department of Children had already visited these 10 facilities and found no fraud, meaning that the Minnesota GOP likely knew that there was zero fraud happening at these facilities but sent Nick Shirley anyways to help push their immigration agenda. Because since 2023, when Nick Shirley returned to social media after taking a break to go on a mission trip with the Church of Latter-day Saints, he's been posting solely campaign content for Donald J. Trump. Which is why when Nick posted this video alongside the help from the Minnesota GOP, it was broadcast by J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump himself. And let's not forget that this was all planned out in advance in Project 2025, where they say they need to prioritize funding for home-based childcare, which is the $5,000 checks for somebody that has a baby, and not daycare. Since this is a wildly unpopular policy, what they needed was a reason, and they manufactured one with Nick Shirley, which is why they're not investigating daycares, they're simply stopping all payments to them. And let's not also forget that citizen journalists don't travel around with 8 masked security guards. There is a lot of money backing Nick Shirley, and his connections draw questions. This video was never about uncovering fraud. It was about pushing the agenda of the Trump administration and returning women to the home. This is some handmade level insanity, and it was an open book test that we failed. Who is Nick Shirley really? A citizen journalist?
I agree. They're going to use this kid. Nick Shirley is a half cousin of Tyler James Robinson. They share the same grandfather, Jeffrey Jones of Cedar City. Nick's mom is Brooke T. Jones. Brooker T. Jones. The plot continues to thicken.
Charlie actually messaged me the night before he died after I had been on Laura Ingraham and done an interview, and then invited me on a show to come on.
Let's get rid of the music. Today actually, I would have been Thursday. And to know that he's no longer here is just super sad. Makes me sad. And rest in peace to a good man. And no, he will be missed, not forgotten. But he sure did get interviewed by Nasty, didn't he? Nick Shirley lied. Renee Good died. Remember the Masonic ties with Pretty Good? Those 2 deaths in Minnesota? I see Masonic all over this. And if you know anything about the Mormon church, it was created by Freemasons. This is when he was in Cuba. This is hilarious, folks. I hope you're still here for this. If you're still here, give me a thumbs up.
I'm in the hotel that you were supposedly in here in Havana, Cuba, and you're nowhere to be seen. Neither is the security and the CIA and the spies that were supposedly holding you hostage. We understand that you're super tight with Trump, and basically what you're doing is just pretext for the United States to try to go ahead and invade Cuba the same way they did with Venezuela. But you're not here.
All right, so this guy lives in Cuba, and Nick is like, "Oh, I'm in Cuba. I'm in Cuba. They got me in Cuba." Let me find the rest of the videos. And he's like, well, I'm at the same hotel you're saying you're like trapped at, and you're not here. Let me find that. Watch what he says, you guys.
If there's a will, there's a way.
I'm currently here at the front desk check-in where Nick Shirley said he's being held hostage by the Cuban government.
We legit have Cuban spies at the bottom of our hotel room.
Nowhere to be seen. Neither is the security and the CIA and the spies that were supposedly holding you hostage.
They're in the lobby right now. The security guard just went down to see what was going on, and they're all down there in the lobby.
Walking in. Hola, buena.
This is probably the most dangerous situation I've ever been in, especially when you have...
He said, at Nick Shirley, come outside. Nick Shirley was on. He actually sent it to him, and Nick wouldn't come out. He said they took his phone. He said they took my camera. They took all my iPad, everything. They took everything. But they didn't, you guys. He still had his phone and Wi-Fi sitting in a hotel room. He's trying to get a whole war cut started off. This is terrible.
We are currently
being tailed by Cuban intelligence here in Havana, Cuba. At the airport, they seize all of my cameras. They seize both my GoPros, my meta glasses. These are not my meta glasses. All my microphones. Right now, we're currently planning our escape route out of Cuba right now.
How stupid do they think we are? First, it's only corruption in blue cities. When they wanted to attack Minnesota, all that corruption that this Nick Shirley found. And now, you know who wants to take over Cuba. And Nick Shirley just so happens to find himself in Cuba, being held hostage. Hostage in a hotel room. Yeah, you know, if Cuba wanted you, Cuba would take you, Nick.
Amen.
You're not fooling anybody. And to this administration, insulting our intelligence on a daily basis. I know there are some folks in this country that will buy into this and this little kid with his hoodie. But for those of us that don't have our heads completely up our asses, we can see very clearly what you're doing. You're not slick. And you're using this kid, Nick, to try to come up with an excuse to carry out what you really want, which is Cuba. And Cuba, if you're listening, you can have Nick. You can take him.
Amen. Keep him. Look at his face. They took everything. It wasn't true. It was not true.
Hispanic day laborers. $20 apiece to stand in front of the White House with pro-Biden signs. The goal of this was to film the moment and push a so-called migrant invasion narrative ahead of the 2024 election. Here's a picture of him on that day with all the people he recruited for this publicity stunt. This is reporting from Reuters, by the way. You can see the caption here saying YouTube influencer Nick Shirley speaks with a day laborer staging a protest in front of the White House in Washington on May 15th, 2024. He paid these guys $20 a piece to hold up signs in front of the White House saying, "I love Biden and I need my work permit for my family." He recruited these men in a Home Depot parking lot where day laborers typically wait for jobs. He told them, "We want to take you to the White House." This really demonstrates Nick Shirley's lack of credibility and how we cannot trust a single thing that he says. This guy has a very clear and public history of staging footage to provoke fear and outrage online. It's the exact same thing this little propagandist has been caught doing in Minnesota. Here's his exact strategy. He finds a vulnerable group of people, creates a very misleading visual, strips it out of context, and then lets social media do the rest.
It's exactly what he does. It's exactly what he does.
Conservative files against consent conference. Guest of honor today, Nick Shirley. And this is where Republican hypocrisy really shines, because MAGAs will say they hate asylum seekers and then turn around and have a reading rainbow refugee as their keynote speaker. You know, I always thought Nick was just lying about none of the money actually going to education. Then I saw bro fighting for his life against the word benevolence.
What do you mean by the word benevolent?
Benevolence is hooking Nick up to a 47-gallon ivermectin IV. Like, he has no quality of life, living as a hooked on phonics fugitive. Just put him out of his misery. And you know, by the way, he's the only speaker booked for Friday and Saturday, because they got to give him time to sound out his speech phonetically. If Nick Shirley fought files as hard as he fights three-syllable words, there would be no Republican Party.
All right, white supremacist.
I feel like we can get this kid to, stop making racist documentaries if we just band together and, get him a tablet loaded with Miss Rachel videos.
A Mormon discussing brainwashing in this country is just funny.
Belief about the world that you had that you no longer hold. Now I do.
For certain that there is brainwashing. We're seeing real brainwashing in real time where people will support fraud. People will support somebody who's here illegally, or the capturing of Maduro. Joe Biden wanted to capture Maduro, 25 million bounty. Trump goes and does it. And then the Democrats are coming after him. They say it's bad. So it's brainwashing. It's real. I've seen it firsthand. You question their logic. Well, I am going to question your logic. Where? are your videos on Trump and everything he's done?
Went to Israel like at the start of the year. Straight up. He's a wall kisser. Wouldn't it be crazy if I told you that this whole Minnesota daycare story was covered back in February of this year by this guy? Yeah. This shit isn't even new. I don't know. This is such a manufactured bullshit story. It's pissing me off. And Elon Musk has just chosen to like crown Nick as the new independent journalist we can trust. Yeah, well, his parents committed massive fraud and money.
Bread and circus. I agree. JD Vance, our administration owes a gratitude to Nick Shirley for exposing one of the most egregious cases of fraud in this country. And that's when he talks to him. Here's Alex Jones talking to Nick before he goes and, does his testimony.
Representing Americans in the fight against fraud. Because it is so big, and so many people are being defrauded by these fraudsters across America. And it's not just in blue cities or these big cities or these blue states. It's in all of America, in all 50 states. It just happens to be that the most amount of money that's being defrauded is inside of these big blue cities.
Now, is that Senator Paul that invited you to speak?
Yes. I'll be testifying, so should be interesting.
Have they given you specifics? You've done so many investigations, so many areas.
Not really. It's just been. I'm just gonna be talking about fraud in general, about what I've kind of uncovered here inside the United States. Because before then, there wasn't this war on fraud. I mean, Elon did his best effort, and they burned down his factories. They even bombed a Tesla.
A bunch of Teslas.
Yeah, a bunch of Teslas, and so they had massive protests, everything like that.
They blew up some and burned some here in Austin.
Yeah, the crazy thing is the government had the opportunity to have the smartest man, most successful man, and the richest man of all time to help them, and they denied it, and they villainized him.
They were threatened.
Good God, these people. And Alex Jones just eating this crap up. Why? Because Alex Jones, the name is trademarked. That's not the first Alex Jones. That's like the second or third, you guys. You're going to tell me that Alex Jones did not know that Elon Musk and Trump created Doge to go in and connect all the federal government agencies together on an open AI system? Please, for the love of God.
One of the most viral stories of 2025 about the Somali daycare fraud in Minnesota ends up being a complete psyop. Because evidently, Israeli reporters are now asserting that Mossad and Israeli intelligence, not U.S. authorities, were responsible for exposing the Somalian-ran Minnesota fraud operations.
How is the Israeli Mossad related to the recent corruption that was discovered in Minnesota? You're not going to believe it, but there actually is a substantial connection, and it runs through the Israeli Prime Minister office. I'll start from the end. Israel just established relationships with Somaliland, which is not Somalia.
And what does that mean? Let's take a listen.
Does anyone know what Somaliland is, really? Said U.S. President Donald Trump after Israel became the first country in the world to recognize the self-proclaimed republic in Eastern Africa. Somaliland is a small territory in the Horn of Africa that broke off from Somalia in 1991. So why does Somaliland even matter? It sits on the Gulf of Aden, one of the world's most important shipping routes. There's also a Gaza-related angle. Earlier this year, it was reported that the U.S. and Israel have explored Somaliland as a potential destination for displaced Palestinians from Gaza.
And bingo, that is why we've been hearing so much about Somalian fraud in Minnesota, because it had already been reported weeks before by the U.S. attorney that fraud in Minnesota exceeded $9 billion. $9 billion, that's a whole lot of fraud compared to, what was it? Nick Shirley talked about $110 million, $9 billion. We're talking about a small fraction, but focusing specifically on the Somali community. And then you have the amplification of this story, which isn't necessarily organic, right? You have people like Elon Musk, Vice President JD Vance, Attorney General Bam Bondi, all amplifying this story. I'm not discounting that the fraud exists within the Somali community, but is the focus, is the amplification making us feel a certain way, or trying to make us feel a certain way about the Somali community?
Yeah. And then you look at Pam Bondi and her obvious connections, Florida assistant AG, think Epstein. And then JD Vance. Who owns JD Vance? Peter Thiel. He literally created JD Vance out of nowhere. JD Vance has had 3 flipping name changes, folks.
The question. Now, according to Somali intelligence, Somaliland has accepted 3 Israeli conditions in exchange for Israeli recognition. One is the resettlement of Palestinians. 2, the establishment of an Israeli military base on the coast of the Gulf of Aden, and Somaliland joining the Abraham Accords. Well, isn't that a lovely and convenient development for the state of Israel, that they get somewhere to dump the Palestinians? They also gain a critical and strategic military base, and they create an ally in the region that did not exist before. So maybe they get a resident independent journalist who maybe isn't so independent, if you read what this story is all about, to do a story that says Somalians bad.
Right. But of course, there'll be somebody in my comment section that tells me I'm just mean. I'm just mean. You're so mean, Samantha. I can't believe you're doing this.
Fraud is bad. Doesn't matter what they do. How you doing, Nick? Fraud is bad, right? Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. Doesn't matter where you are. But I've never heard you once call out Donald Trump's 70 pardons of billions of dollars of people who committed fraud. Never once. Those people don't have to pay back any restitution. Why have you never even mentioned that, let alone investigated it?
Well, I think fraud's obviously bad. I don't agree with those pardons as well. And
I've never heard you talk about it.
Well, because I'm not making videos on that.
Billions of dollars, not millions, billions, man. Billions.
Yeah, fraud is bad. All
Do you disagree with those pardons? Will you call it out right now?
Yeah, I don't think people should be pardoned if they committed a crime.
Will you investigate the Trump administration for pardoning people that have made billions of dollars in fraud?
Well, when you talk about some of this stuff, you're angry at people for getting rich.
No, I'm angry at people for committing fraud like you. We agree. We agree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, all fraud is bad. All needs to be exposed.
Sure. Billions of dollars by the Trump administration.
And, for example?
The 70 pardons he gave out. He's asking me a question. Nick, I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I appreciate it. It's an important conversation, and I appreciate you asking me. He pardoned 70 people that have committed billions of dollars in fraud, like a George Santos, for example. And the worst part, Nick, and I think we'll agree on this, they don't have to pay back the restitution, which means they've committed billions in fraud. Listen, I agree with you. Fraud in Minnesota, all bad. I want people held to the highest extent of the law. But I feel like, and this is just my opinion, Nick, it gives you more credibility when you also go after people on the right, or Donald Trump pardoning people that have committed, again, billions of dollars in fraud. It shouldn't bother you just as much as it bothers me. I've never heard you tweet about it. I've never heard you talk about it. Why are you not calling out Trump publicly for that?
Well, I've done all the fraud. I've gone after fraud here inside the United States. I've gone and made these documentaries showcasing the fraud. What more would you like me to do? I'm not a cop. I'm not here to investigate each and every single case of fraud.
And people clapped. I'm not a cop. That's how this boy is not smart, folks. Get mad at me. I don't care. He cannot think on his feet. You're going to tell me after listening to this 2-minute clip, that boy uncovered fraud? You a dang fool. That boy ain't uncovered nothing but his mama. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm not a cop, and people clapped. Donald Trump, presidential pardon people who were already found guilty of fraud. This kid he goes out and accuses people of fraud. I uncovered fraud. Well, it's not gone through the court. We don't know if there's actual fraud there. You just made allegations. That gentleman asked a point blank question. Donald Trump is handing out presidential pardons to people who have already been found guilty of fraud. He gives them a pardon and then he forgives their restitution, which is worth more than $2 billion with a B, Trump, dollars in theft. And this was his response, and people clapped. This was at Freedom Fest.
Showcasing the fraud. What more would you like me to do? I'm not a cop. I'm not here to investigate each and every single case of fraud.
Oh, somebody in the audience said it. He's not a cop. And then he goes, I'm not a cop. And then the person who said it started clapping. Oh, tell me this isn't a plant. Come on, I dare someone at this point. Tell me this kid isn't a plant.
Showcasing the fraud. What more would you like me to do? I'm not a cop. I'm not here to investigate each.
I'm not here to investigate each and every. So you only go where they tell you to. He's like a stupid dog. They had to keep him on a leash. He's got a handler. God forbid he becomes president.
He went to Cuba to also film the conditions in Cuba. He did stay in a hotel that is illegal for Americans to stay in. But that American was Nick Shirley, which is precisely the reason why he is never going to get investigated by the Treasury Department. Nick Shirley is a right-wing propagandist and someone that I genuinely think is medically stupid. He is the newest Republican mouthpiece. He was famously went to Minneapolis, and that triggered the Minneapolis occupation that ICE implemented. He went there.
Exactly right.
He looked at a bunch of kindergartens. He demanded to see the children inside. He went there with a camera, and thought because the people were reluctant to allow him entry into a kindergarten, which would have been illegal anyway, that they must have been up to no good.
And let me say something. I ran a daycare. All right. I've run a daycare. There's a special license you can apply for that allows your daycare to be open in the evenings so that parents who have to work night shifts have public daycare. So I saw a lot of people. He walks up to this daycare whose hours are clearly represented from 2 to 10 p.m. At 1:09, he goes up and starts shaking the door. They're closed. There's no kids here. Fraud, fraud. And people in the comment section were like, daycares are not open 2 to 10. How stupid do they think we are? Well, I think that answered that question.
And then this went viral. J.D. Vance said he deserves a Pulitzer for this. And then the Trump administration both restricted funds to a lot of these social safety nets and these programs. And then they decided to invade Minneapolis.
And people got killed. Okay, are you starting to see how dangerous Nick Shirley actually is?
Is an enemy to the people of California. He's literally working to support the fraudsters. Yes, the government.
And I don't like Gavin Newsom. I never liked Tim Walz. Tim Walz was a predator. He's a flipping predator. Gavin Newsom is like Pelosi's nephew. There are no good politicians. So let's clarify that before someone says, are you a Democrat?
The governor of California is an enemy to the people of California. He's literally working to support the fraudsters. Meanwhile, he could be working to expose the fraud. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to say, okay, let's go after the guy who's exposing the fraud. Let's not go after the fraudsters.
Because you aren't exposing fraud, Nick. He's not exposing actual fraud. He's making allegations. We have people that have been arrested for fraud, and Donald Trump has given them presidential pardons with full immunity and no restitution. That is something that you could go do a case on that's provable. So, yeah, they're actually trying to protect themselves from this kid because they see what Donald Trump's doing with him. Here it is. Yes, according to public Utah family records and genealogy details shared online, Tyler Robinson and Nick Shirley's mothers, Amber Jones Robinson and Brooke T. Jones Shirley, are half-sisters. I'm not trying to be a butt, but Nick Shirley looks and talks like he's rather slow. Are his parents first cousins? I know cousin loving isn't frowned upon in Utah. Notice there are add who you want here on his show. So Nick Shirley tweeted out as soon as it came out, is that true? Is that true? Here's my family. Y'all, he did the chart himself, and there's a plus right there where you can click it and put the picture of the person. He erased first names so that you could not double check him. trying to claim that he is not Tyler Robinson's first cousin. He also claimed that a Crowley was in his family line. Crowley in his family line. Come on, you guys. Did you know the mothers of Tyler Robinson and Nick Shirley are half sisters? Are you still practicing Luciferian with General Flynn? See the hand signals? Nobody makes these hand signals, folks. Unless you're in the group. In what world are we living where Nick Shirley and Tyler Robinson are half cousins? When he went to TPUSA, why didn't they ask about this relationship with his cousin? It's not suspicious to anyone that this has never been brought up in any interview with Nick Shirley. It's too much of a coincidence. We are truly living in the Truman Show. Oh, see, that's a better picture. Look at him now. Look at that chin. Look at that chin. Oh, yeah, they're cousins. They got them weird heads. And this guy went back. As soon as Nick put out his fake family tree, he's like, I'm sorry, Nick, I'm sorry, because people jumped
His
on him.
mom is Nick Shirley's aunt. What are the odds, people? Why are there always these coincidences? Dude, there's foolery afoot, dude. You can't tell me, dude.
And as soon as Nick put out his fake thing, this gentleman went back and said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because people started, like, you know. Okay, hold on. There was one more on Ukraine I wanted to show. I've shown it in one of my other full-length videos on Nick Shirley. So if I don't get to it, you guys can always go watch that. Did I show this one? Yeah.
He's being held hostage in a hotel in Cuba. Well, guess what? We found the hotel. It's right here. Hotel Nacional.
Yeah. So 2 different podcasters went to the Cuba hotel looking for Nick Shirley.
And it's actually illegal for him to be at this hotel, but not illegal under Cuban law. It's illegal under U.S. law. Let me show you how we know it's a hotel. All right. If you look at the tweet and the video that he posted, that's the room he's staying in. Pretty much, right? Red curtains. This is the Hotel Nacional website. You can pretty much you can't stay in this hotel legally as a U.S. citizen according to U.S. law. The Cubans welcome you here, but the U.S. does not want you staying at this hotel or pretty much any other hotel all over Cuba. There is such a thing as there is something called the Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Here it is right here. Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Below is the U.S. Department of State's Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List, a list of properties in Cuba at which the Cuban assets control regulations generally prohibit persons subject to U.S. jurisdiction from lodging, paying for lodging, or making any reservation for or on behalf of a third party to lodge. It's not just this hotel either. Look at all the hotels. I mean, dozens upon dozens, a dozen, pretty much every hotel in Cuba. We just went in the lobby. Things are calm. There's no security. Everyone, this seems like a normal day like any other. We're not even, my guess is Shirley's not even here anymore. He just, and there's really no evidence. There's no reason to believe that he would be in any risk at all here in Cuba. There's no U.S. journalist or influencer in jail in Cuba. I've been here for 6-7 years. I've never heard of that occurring.
Telling you guys, this boy, he's super dangerous. I want to find that one video. Oh, this one, and we're done.
In San Diego, over 30 people are registered to vote as this is their primary residence. It's all right to have this as a location where you receive a ballot, but you can't have it as your primary residence.
They share the same addresses as the UPS building because above the UPS building, in the same exact building, is apartment complexes, living dwellings. So one big building, bottom floor UPS, everything above bottom floor apartment complexes. This is the right's star journalist. This is the person that they thought deserved some fucking prize in journalism. All he had, no, this is like willful ignorance at this point, because I don't even want to say all you had to do is look up and see the fucking balconies. I mean, they were right there. They were right there. And what boils my blood even more is the fact that this was posted on X. It has 3 million views. Yesterday, it had a community guidelines notes under it or something that basically stated, hey, yeah, no, Nick Shirley's wrong. The reason why there's multiple people registered to vote in this building is because this building is an apartment fucking complex. Just has a UPS building below it, right? Right? Yeah. That community notes is gone. Meaning multiple conservatives get to look at this video and they're just going to believe him. Even though you can see like the little balcony up there. No, they're just going to believe that 30 people are now registered at a UPS building in California. That's right. Because Elon Musk, he does this to himself all the time, will purposely find videos that he knows makes great right-wing propaganda. And instead of allowing the community notes to do what they do best and kind of like shut down that propaganda, he'll remove the community notes guidelines or whatever so that it would continue fooling people. I'm so tired of these people. This should be like qualified as election fucking interference. My name is Mercedes Chandler. Give me a follow. You want to see my face again? Thank you. Goodbye.
So, whether you think he's such a sweet boy, and no matter what, you're going to go believe him. Go believe him. He's a fraudster. There's something going on. He was mind controlled. He's an asset. Maybe he diddled kids in South America. Maybe he helped traffic children. I don't know. They've got something on him and his family. They absolutely do. I told you guys the other day, they ain't got nothing on me. I was an addict. I went to prison. I walked out. I 12-12 myself off of parole. I've been good ever since. Clean and sober. Praise Jesus. When you face your past, you can leave it. When you get saved, God creates in you a new creation. There is a much bigger story going on here with the Nick Shirley. I just scraped it. Ukraine, that young podcaster called him out and Nick was like, yeah, all that gets buried. I mean, he was in El Salvador at the most dangerous prisons before the U.S. government could get there. He had an open door, which tells me the Mormon church has connections worldwide. You better buckle up, friends, because things are fixing to get crazy. I love you guys so much, as usual. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for helping me to build a platform where we can speak truth and face what we made mistakes in the past, and we can move forward. But we absolutely cannot trust anyone out there anymore. Next, you're going to see Nick Shirley with a picture of him and Mitch McConnell. I love you guys so much. As usual, thank you for your time. Have an amazing, blessed day.